and there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics live. Here we go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another tremendous installment from very high above all the puerile and insipid forms of Wyoming mainstream media. This is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics Studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy Wednesday. You know, if yesterday there wasn't a heck of a lot to talk about, today is exactly the opposite. There's a ton of stuff we have on the agenda that we'll get to. In fact, the rest of the week, there's a lot of stuff. Just to give you a heads up of what's going on the program, I just finished up an interview with U.S. Representative Harriet Hageman, which we'll play tomorrow. And if you're wondering, yes, I did ask her some of the big questions, and we'll get an answer from the representative on tomorrow's broadcast. On today's show, lots of stuff, man. We've got the war against Iran is at a pause. Apparently, we have a ceasefire, but there's a whole bunch of articles, many of which are in the Wyoming media, in which they're questioning the president's choice of words as opposed to the president's choice of actions. And now, evidently, we can impeach somebody over what they said as opposed to what they did. And of course, I'm sure that this is playing off of the first impeachment, where it was the perfect phone call. That's where this whole ball got rolling. But even the cow pie, who, up until now, they at least tried to be somewhat conservative. I mean, it didn't really work. Most of us saw right through it. But now, not even batting an eye at it. There's another story, and this one's a gigantic one by the person that carries Megan Degenfelder's water, Claire McFarland. And that one's entitled, "Here's What Red States Didn't Hand Over to the Feds." And there's a couple of different pieces in an all-out assault on Secretary of State Chuck Gray. But if you read the articles, there's one thing that they all have in common, or rather, one thing that they don't. Well, I don't even know how you put it. One thing that they all miss, and it is absolutely available to you. If you were to walk into the county clerk's office and ask for it, you'd be given the same information. But apparently, the so-called journalists in the Wyoming media are not talented enough to do that. But anyway, first thing on the program, I guess let's go to the cow pie. In an article entitled, "Wyoming Delegation Stands by Trump After Whole Civilization Will Die," post. And let me just read you the opening paragraphs, and then we'll talk about this. First, and I quote, "President Donald Trump grabbed headlines across the nation with a Tuesday morning post threatening a whole civilization. Quote, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again," he wrote. "I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have a complete and total regime change where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionarily wonderful can happen. Who knows?" Trump said that, quote, "We will find out tonight," end quote, and called it one of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world. Now, as we all know, our president has a predilection for overstatement, in that almost everything he does is overstated.
And it amazes me that these people still haven't figured that out.
No.
They don't understand the concept of the Overton window. They don't. He comes out and he says something outlandish.
Yes.
And the problem is his enemies don't really know how far he really will go. Which is, when you
Which is
leave
the
yourself,
point.
yeah, exactly. When you leave, we're going to decimate your entire society, or however he puts
Yeah.
it.
What did he say? The end
No,
of a civilization.
you can bet that's not his plan, but you don't know exactly what his plan might be, and that's his game. And we all see it. Why can't they?
Well, it's because they don't want to. Because as you'll hear in the Harriet Hageman interview, um, they can't give Trump a win on anything, and so every little thing that happens, they have to use it to attack Donald Trump. And just think about all the wins that he's racked up recently. So we retrieved the downed pilot. We got the Strait of Hormuz opened up. The war has come to an end. There's pretty much no way that Iran can enrich uranium, at least in the near future. I mean, there's a whole series of things that the president has been successful on, and none of them can bring themselves to admit that there's been any success whatsoever. So I think that that's part of it. I mean, it really is, it really is a question of what can we attack Trump with today. A couple more paragraphs. Quote, he added that 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death will finally end. God bless the great people of Iran. Hours later, the president announced the U.S. had reached a 2-week ceasefire with Iran ahead of an 8 p.m. deadline, averting the attack that he had described in such dire tones. The ceasefire hinges on the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. The strait is a key thoroughfare for approximately 20% of the world's oil. And then the Cowboy piece goes on to discuss our representative and senator's reaction to Donald Trump's statement about decimating the whole civilization. Here's what they say with that part. Quote, in the day-long interim, so it's only been 1 day, in the day-long interim between the threat and the ceasefire announcement, the public grappled with Trump's post, some calling it genocidal and others calling it hyperbolic. Well, it's not other people that called it genocidal. It is in the title. A Wyoming delegation stands by Trump, whole civilization will die post. There's a piece in Wildfile, and I believe in the title, it does say genocidal. Let me pull it up here and we'll just check it out. Okay, so the title of their piece is also whole civilization will die if Iran deal isn't reached. But if you read through the piece, it's very clear. That's what they're pointing out. And here's what the Cowboy says. Wyoming's all-Republican, 3-member congressional delegates cast the president's message as a strong impression geared toward achieving a crucial outcome. Quote, Iran's terrorist regime has been chanting death to America for the past half-century as a national motto. If Iran had hit its way, American civilization would be demolished tomorrow. President Trump is acting on a national security mandate to protect the American people that guarantees Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. And it goes on from there. But how could you not defend the president's duty? And notice I didn't say right, I didn't say obligation, I said duty to protect the national security of this country. That's his job.
It is his job, and I want to go clear back, if I can, put this in a little historic perspective. God gave that land to the children of Israel.
Yes.
And he said, when you go in there, kill everything.
Yes, he said wipe them out.
Men, women, children, animals, kill it all. And I think that is a principle of war, as you make, and I've said this before, you make war so terrible that it's an absolute last resort, and then when you do it, that it's all out. That's the way I think it should be. So when I hear Trump saying we'll wipe them out, yeah, it's nothing but a swath of destruction. And I think we need to put things back into perspective. They all want to charge him, for example, with war crimes.
Yes, that's where
Okay,
I'm going next.
if you make war palatable, feasible, profitable, are you going to be surprised that wars come up routinely?
No, you shouldn't
know?
be.
If we want to end war, let's do war the way war should be fought. Now, that's not going to happen. I get that. But I think the threat of it, and somebody that actually, instead of, I'll send you pallets load of cash,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think we're on a better track.
Well, it's a difference in perspectives. Democrats think, and I was listening to Ro Khanna yesterday. I mean, the guy's a radical communist, but I think he was on Fox. No, in fact, I'm pretty sure he was on Fox. And the question was, well, what would you have him do, as opposed to destroying their ability to produce a nuclear weapon? What do you think the president should do? And he said, diplomacy. Well, the response to that is pretty easy. We've had 47 years of diplomacy, and none of it has worked at all, ever.
Some people don't. That isn't how you deal with them. You watch parents in Walmart practicing diplomacy with their 3-year-old.
I know,
child.
it drives me crazy.
What that 3-year-old child needs, you'll probably go to jail for.
Well, and therein lies the problem. Very, very similar. A lot of times when Christine and I are walking through the store and we see a child, act out, often I'd look to her and say, hey, what would have happened to you when you were that age? And the answer is always, well, we would have got it right in the aisle, or we would have got it in the bathroom.
And you only need to do it once.
Yes.
Once they know that you will carry through. And that's the point with Trump, is they're sitting over there, they don't know, but what he won't try to do it. He might just be crazy enough.
Well, and
the way it ought to be.
Here's the other thing, Ken. Every single one of these media outlets we're talking about, whether they're in Wyoming or outside of Wyoming, at one point or another, they have all printed the phrase, "The Art of the Deal," the title of Trump's book. Every single one of them has. And yet I doubt any of them have ever read it. When you're negotiating, you ask for way more than what you actually want. And that way, if you have to, you can settle for what you want, or what is more likely to happen is you'll get more than what you want.
Yeah, you'll end up being better off than if you'd tried it the other way. Two good examples: University of Wyoming and the Wyoming Business Council.
Okay.
Our initial offer for the Wyoming Business Council was, we're going to wipe out that civilization. Granted.
Careful, you're running for office.
If it were just up to me, yeah, I'd have abolished it. Did I think that I was going to, or we were going to get that accomplished? No, but I thought we would definitely get some changes made. And guess what? We've got a whole interim to look at making some changes. University of Wyoming, we were less successful there.
Well, that's the brown and golden calf.
Yeah, but it's not over yet,
Well, no. And it's, again, you always have to ask for more than what you want. It's called negotiating. Now, here's where we get to the piece about the cow pie referring to this as genocide. And listen to this. A former state representative, a Republican in Gillette, now serves as a Campbell County commissioner and writes a regular column for the cow pie, was reflecting on Trump's post. And he said, quote, "A whole civilization will die tonight, ? There's a term for that. It's called genocide," or he says genocide. He said Trump is known for escalating with language and pressuring the other side to blink first. Before the ceasefire announcement, this Campbell County commissioner voiced doubt about whether Iran would cave and asked if Trump would follow through. Quote, "And if he does, what will that mean for America and our place in the world?" Well, this particular Campbell County commissioner is another one of those folks that has Trump derangement syndrome, that he's not going to admit anymore that maybe the president knows what he's doing. And, and again, it is a Democrat tactic to focus solely on language. Because, I mean, they want to make you believe that what people say is a crime, and which is why the focus is on, well, Trump said he's going to wipe out a civilization, so that's a war crime. No, not necessarily. And it's a negotiating tactic. And I'm sure the man didn't exactly mean that. But there again, as you pointed out, Ken, they don't really know. And they don't know Trump. And the only thing they know is force. You're dealing with a bunch of radical Muslims that, if they had their druthers, they'd drop a nuke right in the middle of New York City. I mean, and if you have any question about that, you frankly don't know what you're talking about. And you haven't been studying the history of Iran, or at least since 1979. And you're ignoring that, these people really do want to kill us. They've already killed thousands of Americans. If not directly, indirectly through one of their proxies. And so the question I would ask all of these critics is, how many American lives is enough? How many people dying is enough for you to say it's time to act? And right now, all the folks that are hung up on Trump's bluff, I mean, I guess we could call it a bluff, because bluff, you really don't know if somebody's got the cards or not. But they're so hung up on the language that they don't realize the reality of the situation.
Yeah, back to end World War II, Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't realize is that we had another bomb.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there, and the emperor's got to think, how many of those do they have?
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to keep doing it? And that's actually, I actually listened to the recording the other day. It had to be translated because I don't understand Japanese.
Right.
But basically, he flat out said, it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
You still get to be emperor, but emperor of what?
Emperor of a piece of glass. And therein lies my main point, that how much do we have to put up with before we're going to act? How many Americans have to die? How many terrorists have to get funded? How many bombs have to be set off?
Well, you're going to kill, and that's part of my point of what I've just brought up. You're going to kill a whole bunch more if you don't just deal with this.
Yeah.
So we deal with it now. We don't allow them to get the nukes, and we stop it. If they were able to get into a little better position, which I'm quite confident they were getting close to, what might have come of that?
Sure.
So how many lives does a wild statement like, I'll wipe out your civilization, how many lives does that save?
Well, that's a good point. And I think a good place to end this, too, is so we went in and wiped out their nuclear facilities pretty handily and pretty easily. And you would think that would send a pretty clear message to Iran. Hey, this is only a small taste of what we can actually do. Maybe y'all ought to back off. And you would think that message would be received. But it wasn't. Iran continued to, up the rhetoric. They continued to kill their citizens. They continue to be the same old Iran. And so obviously, we had to up the game. And, I've read a couple of pieces where the intelligence said that Iran was far closer to some pretty heavy duty weapons than anybody really ever knew.
One last thought. We've all watched the horror movie where the monster is killed.
Yeah.
And somebody turns their back on it.
And then it's alive.
And then it starts to raise up behind them. That's Iran.
Yes.
It's got to be dealt with. And when you have the chance, put a few more rounds in his head just to make sure it's dead.
Yep. Probably needs a couple of corpse kickers. Speaking of corpse kickers, here's one of our favorite segments, Things That Go Boom. From the Turkey Vulture, Colorado Governor Jared Polis signs expansion of red flag law, allowing more people to seek gun removals. Now, this is fantastic news if you're a radical Democrat gun grabber. Here's what the Turkey Vulture says, or the Wyoming Tribune Eagle. And I quote, Governor Jared Polis signed an expansion of Colorado's red flag law Monday afternoon, allowing more people to file extreme risk protection order requests with the courts to remove a person's firearms. This year's Senate Bill 4, builds off the landmark 2019 measure. And notice the language that's being used in this article. The landmark 2019 measure creating the state's red flag law. That law allows certain people to petition the courts for a temporary restraining order to prohibit people deemed a danger to themselves or others from possessing firearms. So, in other words, a red flag law essentially means that if I think that Ken, or if I don't like Ken, I can say, he's got guns, and I think he's a real danger to his family, and I think he's a danger to his neighbors. And so we just really need to investigate him. And so I can go to the court and ask for a restraining order, and they'll come take his guns away without any proof, without meeting any sort of proof that actually Ken does need to be committed. They just take your guns away. Now in Wyoming, we have a law against that. And it's one of those great gun bills that we were able to pass. What was that was that last year? 2024, maybe? Okay, anyway. But Colorado, it has turned into a full-blown communist state. That it doesn't matter whether you are guilty or not. It doesn't matter whether you have acted or not. Your ability to possess firearms is dependent upon what everybody else thinks, which is entirely the opposite of what the Constitution says, what our entire system is based on, that you're not guilty until you're proven so beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, here is the most troubling part of what the Turkey Vulture printed. Just listen to this, quote, "The newest expansion grows the list to include behavioral health co-responders and allows for healthcare and educational institutions to file the petitions." In other words, Colorado's red flag law now allows the government itself, without anybody else, to say, I think that you're a real danger to the community and we're going to come take your guns. This is gun confiscation. It is the exact opposite of what the Second Amendment says.
Or you're a danger to yourself.
Yeah.
You might do something to hurt. Well, so what? What business is it of yours? It's not that I'm unsympathetic, but if somebody wants to find a way, they're going to find a way. But what I find is a little bit disingenuous here is they're the same kind of people that want to clear the way for a doctor to be able to assist a suicide.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't do it on your own. You've got to have our help. You can't even off yourself without government.
Yeah. Well, now they're going to take your guns, too. And that is, and of course, a red flag law, you're not that far removed from the government just saying you can't possess your firearms.
Exactly. When government can't decide the difference between male and female.
Yeah.
When they tell you that you have the best education on the planet and half the kids can't read, I don't have a lot of confidence in their judgment.
Well, listen to the next paragraph that a Wyoming newspaper printed. Quote, "This law will help protect Coloradans and our communities from senseless gun violence," said Polis, a Democrat, in a signing statement. Quote, "Colorado's red flag law has been successfully used over 370 times through 2024, keeping Coloradans safe across the state." So let me rephrase that paragraph for you. Over 370 times, the state of Colorado has illegally and unconstitutionally seized somebody's firearms. With cause or without cause, it really doesn't matter. The Second Amendment is very clear. There's no exceptions in it. It doesn't say unless your neighbor thinks you're a danger to the community, or unless a government bureaucrat says that you don't need to possess firearms, or unless your kid's teacher is listening to the stories that your kid made up, and so she or he is going to petition the court to go have your firearms removed. This is, Colorado is nothing like it was when I went to college there in 2001, 2002. It is, there's no difference between Colorado and Illinois now. It's pretty sad.
Well, Tom would say Colorado has mountains.
That's the only difference.
But before long, you won't be able to go there.
Yeah, just absolutely shocking. And this is yet another reason why we need to elect more conservatives to our legislature. Yeah, because, I mean, it's only, 40 miles away is the Colorado border, and a lot of things have a tendency of making their way north.
We are so close to going the exact same route that they have. It's scary, folks.
Scary. All right, let's take our first break, and when we come back, you're going to love this, Ken. It's going to be your favorite subject. Maybe not your favorite, maybe one of your favorite subjects. Affordable housing. No, that's not it. It's the Wyoming Business Council. No, actually, it's both. Back in a minute. Are you tired of all the meaningless political drivel floating around right now? Endless commentary that really doesn't have anything backing it up? Do you long for the days of true investigative journalism coming from an authoritative source who really doesn't care how popular and apparently good-looking a politician is? Fortunately for you, that's what I do on Cowboy State Politics. New episodes are published every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and you can get them anywhere that you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, really any of them will work. But the easiest way is just to go to the website, cowboystatepolitics.com. There, you can find all of the shows, as well as any of the articles I might bring up during the course of the program. Cowboy State Politics Live, the program you're listening to right now, is broadcast every Tuesday through Friday, beginning at 8 a.m. Pay attention to all of that other block-headed nonsense if you want. Just make sure that you don't miss an episode of Cowboy State Politics. And now, back to our program. Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live on a Wednesday. I'm David Iverson, documented to be almost always right 99% of the time. Welcome to the program, my friends. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to all the content at Cowboy State Politics. I really appreciate it. And don't miss today. Today on the podcast, we'll have an interview with U.S. Representative Harriet Hageman. It's pretty interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on, and yeah, if you're wondering, I did ask her the question that you've been pondering. But now let's go back to the turkey vulture, the Wyoming Tribune Eagle. Now, this is an opinion piece from a Cheyenne City councilman named Seagrave, whatever his name is. I don't think that it really matters, except to say that he's incredibly wrong. The op-ed is entitled, Cheyenne Lost 260 Homes. Wyoming Needs Leaders Who Put Communities First. Now, Ken, are you a leader that puts communities first?
No.
No, not at all?
If you're going to have anything, and the entire purpose for having a government is to be able to maintain individual rights.
Yes.
Individual liberty. That's the reason.
And housing.
To have, it is true that, the fundamental part of that is to be able to own property.
Yes. And a two-car garage.
Yeah. and to have someone else feed your kids all summer long.
Yes, and a patio out back.
Yeah, just keep going.
A swimming pool, perhaps.
But no, my focus is not the community. My focus is to preserve individual liberty. That's where it's at. And these free individuals will then build the community that suits them.
Yes. And, you allow them to live in an environment that allows them to prosper, that gives them opportunity to prosper. But that's not what this Cheyenne City councilman is saying. Here's how he begins the piece. Cheyenne didn't just lose a grant application on April 2nd. It lost 260 income based homes, units that would have provided stability for families, seniors, and essential workers who are already struggling in a tight housing market. So, what sort of stability is it when you're reliant on the government for your house? That is, if you are unable to provide your own housing and then you go get it from the government, how stable is that? Well, I would argue that it's not very stable at all because you're dependent upon somebody else, i.e., the government, for the roof over your head. And that begs the question of whether or not that's the role of government anyway.
Well, that's why I brought up the food issue. If you're dependent on government for everything that you have, you're not a citizen.
No,
Look at
you're a subject.
when we had the discussion with some of the tribes. I specifically remember in a committee meeting, one of the tribe's members said, "If we don't get this money, we will
Will die. Yeah.
Um, that is absolutely that's unacceptable.
It's shocking.
Anybody's got to rely on the will of government, uh, not just to keep their firearms, but to have a place to live and to have food. Where have we put ourselves?
Well, that's a good question. Now, perhaps Mr. Seagrave has, and by the way, Councilman, if you'd like to come on the program and talk about so-called affordable housing, you're more than welcome to do so. But let's continue. Quote, the project wasn't controversial. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't flawed. In fact, the Wyoming Business Council unanimously recommended it after a full vetting process. Everybody tasked with evaluating the proposal agreed that it was ready to go. Again, if it's part of the Wyoming Business Council and you're providing housing for people, income based, of course, how flawless could the project possibly be? The only way that it could be flawless is if government wasn't involved at all. If it was a private developer that was building an apartment building to provide more, more empty houses or more empty apartments for people.
I'm going to contest that statement.
Okay.
I don't think it'll ever be flawless,
No.
regardless of who does it, because we're humans and humans are flawed.
Okay. Fair enough.
Therefore, you learn how to deal with flawed, which means you look out for yourself, you protect yourself, and government's responsibility is to make sure that you're able to do that.
Now, riddle me this, Agent 29. Riddle me that.
Here we go again.
Here we go again. Why are housing prices so high? I mean, why when you go your average house in Sheridan, I bet it's $350,000.
We were just having a conversation about that last night. There's myself and Andy, and Andy's one of our city councilmen. I have a meeting Thursday night for the Board of Adjustments where somebody has to come to the city and beg permission to put the garage where he wants to have it. And there's no question that he has the right to put the garage there. But it's going to be about 2 feet taller than what the...
Oh, this is that same one from last year?
Oh, no, this is another one.
Okay.
But we have these rules on the books that are inane. There's no reason for it. Now, we had a deal in Cody. I do feel for the people who are living around the Mormon temple there.
Ah, yes.
That began to be a problem. So there's a limit somewhere. But we have so many regulations, so many hoops that you've got to go through to go do anything. Every material that you use in building a house has to be approved by one government agency or another and tested. And there's a trade-off. Yes, there is some safety involved in that, sure. But you get to the point where it gets absolutely ridiculous and you can't hardly do anything. And that's a big portion of why housing is as expensive as it is. is the time involved to clear all of the hoops, um, not just by the builder himself, but by everybody that's providing anything for the builder. And it just goes on and on.
Right. I mean, that certainly plays into it. I mean, regulation costs money. But one of the biggest drivers of housing being so expensive is simple supply and demand. That
That's yeah, that's true. And but you're actually making my point.
I know I'm about
Yeah.
to make it even
Well, you
further.
go ahead.
Ken often asks me, "Are you done?" Not even remotely. No matter what,
Because I'm done.
no matter what government tries to do, no matter how involved they try to get, they cannot escape the laws of supply and demand. That the free market, however much you want to be involved in it, the free market still works. And the only thing that you do when you intervene in the market is you drive prices higher.
Well, yeah. So let's look at what California does, for example. Things have gotten just prohibitive to do anything out there. Colorado, very much the same way. And so, what do people do? They flee places. So, overregulation in places like California drive the price of our housing way up. And so, just because our state government doesn't have a lot of those regulations exist somewhere. It puts upward pressure on ours. Um, Supply and demand. we, we have a limited supply, and there's a lot of demand for it.
Yes, and precisely my point. So you add on top of all of that, all the regulations and your rules and everything, and then you add that on top of a low supply and a high demand. Of course, housing is going to be expensive. Now, how do you counter that? You get government out of the way. Instead of adventuring and in the market, intervening in the market is probably a better way to put it, because any of this government sponsored housing is an intervention in the free market. Well, anytime you get government in there, what does it cause other people to do? Well, it causes your private developer that says, maybe I was thinking about building an apartment building, but now I'm not going to because I have to compete with the government. Well, the government has to pay higher wages. And I mean, it goes on and on.
Same reason healthcare is so expensive.
Exactly.
It doesn't need to be.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you're exactly right. Every time the government gets involved in the free market, it drives prices up. I mean, everything from wages to supplies. Okay, so the price of lumber. Okay, one of the reasons why the price of lumber is so high is the price of labor. And why is the price of labor so high? Because the government won't stop printing money. Now, of course, the state of Wyoming can't really do too much, in that regard. But at the very least, we can get the heck out of the way of the housing market and just let it operate.
The more laws you have, the more litigation you have.
Yeah.
Because I've often said the purpose of a lawyer is to figure out how to skirt the law.
Well, that's what they do.
That's generally how it works.
Yeah. All right, so let's continue on with what this moron in Cheyenne says. Quote, but when the State Loan and Investment Board met, the meeting collapsed into political conflict. According to the Cowboy State Daily, arguments, procedural fights, and personal attacks derailed the agenda. And the people who desperately need those homes are paying the price. That's not at all what happened. This is the meeting where Chuck Gray offered an amendment to say, hey, whomever you're going to rent this to, we got to make sure that they're U.S. citizens. It's that meeting. And because the other four people on the SLIB board, that would be Megan Felder, Christy Racinas, Mark Gordon, and Kurt Meyer, refused to even really talk about that amendment. In fact, they threw a giant fit. That's what derailed your grant, because the other four members on the State Lands Board refused to even discuss the simplicity of an amendment that says you got to prove that you're a U.S. citizen before we can give you taxpayer dollars. And I got to think that, well, I'm almost positive that everybody's that listens to this program looks at that and says, well, of course you have to be a U.S. citizen. First, you're not entitled to my tax dollars anyway. But if we're going to do that, you got to be a citizen. But what derailed that was not politics. It was a lack of common sense on the part of four of the members of the SLIB board. All four of them voted against that.
You had one person standing up, just saying, "Hey, let's just do the right thing here," and they couldn't stand it.
No, no, and I loved it. One of the comments from, and I was just looking through my show prep files, um, trying to find the right soundbite, which I didn't find, by the way. But one of them was from Megan Felder herself, and she says, I'm just wondering how we implement this. I'm worried about the implementation and how this is going to work, and I just don't really see a way forward. Uh, it's pretty easy. Every single employer in the United States has access to what's called E-Verify. If Joe's Coffee Shop can verify the citizenship of their prospective employee, I'm pretty sure the state of Wyoming can. I mean, this is a diversionary tactic. It's an avoidance tactic. But Mr. Seagrave, what derailed your grant application is a couple of things. First, it shouldn't even have been a grant application at all, and frankly, its denial is the best possible outcome for that thing. But it was a lack of oversight, a lack of willingness to participate in common sense, and the whole idea. You do not deserve my tax dollars to put up a house for somebody else. That's their job. And it's all of these so-called affordable housing projects just infuriate me. There's one here in Sheridan, Ken. Did you know that? Yeah, the Peak Apartments is what it's called.
There's more than one.
Okay, well, the one that always strikes me is that one, because
Yeah.
in the entire county, that's about the only piece of property that's had its property taxes go down. Now ask yourself, do you know of anybody who could say that their taxes went down $100,000 a year, over $100,000 a year? My guess is you probably can't. But there's an example here in Sheridan. Now, Mr. Seagrave continues. Let's see here. He's listing off the people that are going to be helped with this, and he says, for essential workers, teachers, healthcare workers, sheriff's deputies, service workers, and state employees, housing costs increasingly determine whether they can stay in Cheyenne at all. Without affordable housing, recruitment and retention become even harder. So who exactly are all of these housing projects affordable? I mean, who thinks that they're affordable?
Just as an aside,
Yes.
recruitment and retention are not the job of the government
Mm.
either.
But
Get
what-
out.
but what if your whole town runs on government?
Oh, Buffalo.
Buffalo, 50% of Cheyenne. No, it's not 50% of Cheyenne, but
It's probably 70.
it's probably higher. But the whole point is all of this affordable housing, one, it's not affordable because the people that end up footing the bill is you and me, taxpayers. The people that benefit from it are those folks that, and here's the other thing. We're all told that there are income brackets for all these things. Well, actually, for the majority of the Wyoming CDA projects, the Community Development Corporation or whatever it's called, commission or whatever, most of them, or I shouldn't say most, a lot of them haven't even followed the income restrictions. So don't tell me that these things are going to be, affordable or great. I mean, have you ever actually looked at a housing project? I mean, that's what this is a government housing project. When people get something for nothing or something that they don't have to pay for, they don't respect it and they don't take care of it. And so what ends up happening is the taxpayer is on the hook for all the maintenance and everything, and eventually you end up with a government-owned slum, which is exactly what this thing would have turned into. I mean, it's these government types, they just cannot stop wasting our tax dollars, and it's all got to boil down to elections. I'm convinced of it.
But if there's a problem, we have to do something.
No, we don't have to do something. Let the problem fix itself. Get the heck out of the way. The biggest problem, I mean, the biggest source of all of our problems, really, is the government itself. That we have to be involved in housing, and we have to be involved in creating bike paths. That's another one. I don't even want to go down that road in Sheridan. We'll spend the whole program talking about trails. Let's see here. We already talked about that one.
Well, in between, I will tell you that one of our county commissioners sent me a message yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
It wouldn't be this one, would it?
that wasn't the message. But yeah, she sent me a message. She says, "I know you have a sense of humor, and frankly, I appreciate that." Um, and it was a plaque that was given basically to the county for the beautiful green space created next to the courthouse, which we lovingly call the $3 million flower pot.
A plaque. And who was the plaque from? Or what was it for?
I have it somewhere. We could put up a picture of it.
Okay.
Um, I'll ship it over to you. We'll get it put up so that everybody out there can see the plaque itself.
So government getting an award for a flower pot.
But seriously, Christy, thanks for sending that and for understanding that I would appreciate the humor there.
Oh, man. All right, moving on. Another big controversy that is being trying to be drummed up by the media is when Chuck Gray released voter data to the federal government. Now, there's a number of pieces. I probably got more than one of them in the stack of stuff. But the one I grabbed was an op-ed by Rod Miller. And the title of it is, "What's the Difference Between a Wyoming Voter and a Cow?" First of all, I don't know how insulting you could possibly be in a title, but he's figured it out. And the argument here, and let's just get to, and it's in his stupid, cowboy slang. But basically he's arguing that Chuck Gray somehow violated the privacy of, all of the people all the Wyoming voters that he sent data on. Well, the truth is that the data that was sent from the Wyoming Secretary of State's office is publicly available. Would you like me to prove it to you? Well, gee, Dave, I don't know how you could possibly, have sensitive, confidential voter data. Well, it's pretty easy. You go to the county clerk's office and you ask for. You can ask for your precinct. You can ask for the whole county. You can ask the Secretary of State for the voter data. And here's what you get. And it'll just take a minute for my computer to pull this up because it's an awfully large file. But the one I'm pulling up is the 2022 general election voter history. And when it finally pulls up, I'll show you how easy it is to get your hands on this. All you have to do is submit a FOIA request. But there you go. Ken, would you put my screen on the... Just take a look at this. All right, so here is the data that I got when I asked for all the voter data from the 2022 election. Now, I haven't done 2024 yet, but...
If you hold or are running for an office, you don't have to submit a FOIA request. It's just right there.
Yeah, they just give it to you.
We'll give it to you.
But here, look at this. So let me go up to the top here so you can see the... So we got last name, first name, middle name. There's the address. There's the mailing address. And then there's your voter registration. And if you're male or female, this is not highly sensitive information. But here is, you know what? I'm not even going to read any of Rod Miller's piece just because it's in its stupid cowboy slang. But stop misleading people, Rod. Stop trying to drum up a controversy where there isn't one. The truth is that Chuck Gray just followed the law. He was asked for voter data, and that's what he turned over. Now, there's a lawsuit, and I think this one is in the cow pie. Yep, here we go. This is a gigantic article by Claire McFarland. And I know that I've got this in my stack of stuff here, maybe somewhere. All right, well, we'll just read it off the screen. The piece is entitled, "Here's What Red States That Didn't Hand Voter Data to the Feds Are Saying." And, of course, it's, this is just another way that they can go after the Secretary of State, Chuck Gray. But the piece begins, quote, "While Wyoming was among the first states to hand sensitive voter data to the U.S. Department of Justice last year, 6 Republican-led states and 23 Democrat-led states are still fighting the federal initiative in court. Last year, the Trump administration started asking states for voter rolls that included names, birth dates, specific identifiers like partial Social Security numbers or driver's licenses. Now, it says some states. Doesn't say all states. The DOJ cited the Help America Vote Act and the National Voter Registration Act and the Civil Rights Act of 1960. Secretary of State Chuck Gray said he was granting that request in an August 28th letter to the U.S. Attorney General Harmeet Dillon. He claimed that after conferring with the Wyoming Attorney General's office, we agreed that disclosure of the requested records is proper under the Civil Rights Act. Period. I don't know what these folks in the media, I don't know what they're trying to argue. It was vetted through the Attorney General's office. It's not information that isn't available to just about everybody else. And it's just another attempt by the media to drum up a controversy. That we don't have anything else. We just have to create this. Now, there is a guy who's suing over this. His name is, hold on. See, I mean, it's just, this piece goes on and on and on. Let's see, where is it? Well, anyway, I can't find the name, but there's a lawsuit where a guy is suing the Secretary of State, same guy that sues him all the time, over the release of documents. And what happened is he put a FOIA request in, and the documents he got back were partially redacted. Then he asked for his own voter data, and he says that there were also redactions on that.
Was it Reed Reisner?
And then, no, I don't think it was Reed Reisner. Have you seen his videos on Facebook?
Oh, don't go there.
Oh, Lord. My favorite one is where he says he's standing on
sorry, folks, that I brought it up.
the UW football field, and he says, "No more fat kids." And his gut is hanging over his belt. And, I mean, it's just, I don't know. At least it's comic relief. I mean, at the very least.
So, comic relief real quick, because I think you're about to change anyway, but here it is. There it is.
Oh, there's the plaque. Look at there. Wyoming Engineering and Surveying Society Presidential Project Award for 2025. The Sheridan County Brook Street Green Space Project. And let's see here. Entrance. Morrison, wherever that name is. Owner, Sheridan County, Wyoming. Presented the February 5th, 2026 by Jeff Young, the Wyoming ES Society president. So a waste of $3 million, and they get an award for it.
Well, it kind of reminds me of what happens in Hollywood.
It's the Self-Admiration Society.
Yes.
All right, let's go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue with the program. Make sure that you subscribe and follow the Cowboy State Politics podcast. You can do that from the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. That way, you'll make sure that you won't miss a single episode of Cowboy State Politics. Hunting season. Right about now, you're off with all of your pals, stalking the big, gigantic elk or buck mule deer that you've been thinking about all summer long. And your lovely wife is at home, probably enjoying her time without you. But soon, my friend, all of that is going to come to a screeching halt. And I want you to think about just one little thing. She's able to park her car inside the garage because all of your hunting crap is with you right now. Now, if you'd like the marital bliss to continue, I suggest you make a call to Marcos and Jesse at Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. They can build you a garage or a barn or any other type of metal structure for you to store all of your toys in so that your wife can continue parking inside the garage. And you can avoid sleeping on the couch for the next month or two. Call Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. Get them to build you a metal building before it's too late. Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live. I'm David Iverson, doing what I was born to do with talent given to me by God himself. Welcome back to the program. Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And, you know, politics is funny, my friends, and we should laugh at the things that politicians do. The Campbell County Republican women, they absolutely agree. And so on the 18th, they're hosting Kyle Mann from the Babylon Bee over in July. It's going to be a fun evening. I'm going to try to make it. So if you want tickets to what's going to be a really funny show, go to CampbellCountyRepublicanWomen.com and you can get you a set of tickets. And as it relates to politicians saying stupid and funny stuff, the wives of politicians also sometimes say stupid and funny stuff. This is a piece from Breitbart, and it's entitled, Gavin's Wife Offers Bizarre Defense of Kristi Noem and Pam Bondi. Now, Pam Bondi, she's been a little bit embattled in her time as Attorney General, and it's all in my opinion, which is the only one that really counts on this show. In my opinion, it is entirely brought on herself. And she could have avoided all of it simply by doing what she was hired to do. But instead, she overpromised and underdelivered on just about anything. And, you know, I think if she would have spent less time on Fox News and more time being the Attorney General, things may have turned out a little bit different for her. Now, another woman in the administration, Kristi Noem. Now, she was let go for a different reason, and there was a big giant scandal, and a couple of ICE officers were involved, and a few citizens threatened their lives, and they took appropriate action. And often in politics, when there's a big scandal, you just remove the problem person out of the situation. And that's not unusual. All administrations do that. So you've got two very prominent political figures who no longer work for the administration. Now, Gavin Newsom's wife, she also is a prominent person kind of in politics, but she's got a whole nother explanation, different than the one of, these people actually just weren't doing their job. From Breitbart, and I quote, I need to call out that it's no surprise to me that the first two prominent people pushed out of this administration are women. Well, that's not entirely true, because you had that idiot that leaked all the Iran stuff. What was his name? Joe Kent. Yeah, he's the guy, one of the guys that got let go out of the administration. Jennifer Newsom, wife of Governor Gavin Newsom and self-described first partner of California, offered a bizarre defense of former Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and former Attorney General Pam Bondi. Now, the only way that Jennifer Newsom would be defending Noem and Bondi is if it fit her own purposes. Newsom, in a recent video, claimed that the two women, both recently removed from cabinet-level positions in President Donald Trump's administration, were victims of the so-called, and you've heard this phrase before, the patriarchy, and proof positive that the war on women was raging ever onward. Go ahead and play the video, Ken.
Trust me, I'm not a fan of Pam Bondi nor Kristi Noem, but I need to call out that it's no surprise to me that the first two prominent people pushed out of this administration were women. Let me explain. The conservative women that Trump handpicks, who align themselves with an agenda that controls women, restricting our rights, limiting our autonomy, and pushing us back into this straitjacket of femininity that is only in service of men. There's a familiar pattern here. Women are brought in, packaged Mar-a-Lago style, and lifted up as long as they commit to wholeheartedly serve the interests of the patriarch at the top. Now, it looks like power, or proximity to power with a big title, but it never comes with job security and protection.
No, never
There's
does.
no secure place inside this hand-picked patriarchal body that systemically disrespects, devalues, and discriminates against women and girls. And this is where complicity comes in. Because when you align yourself with that value system with a leader who has publicly devalued women, degraded them, and been found liable of abusing women, well, guess what? You're going to be the first to go. So while you're in a perceived position of power
All right, I
in the
can't take this
system that
anymore. So, first, I don't think that anybody has a job security in the Trump administration at all. Not a single person.
Big surprise, because what was Trump best known for saying?
You're fired. Absolutely ridiculous.
Shock.
That it's the patriarchy that's the problem here. And it's fascinating because when you talk about it, it's fascinating to me anyway. But when you talk about patriarchy in a philosophical sense, really it's a Marxist view of the world. That there's only two choices, men and women. That it's an oppressor versus the oppressed, and it just shows you how unintelligent the Newsoms think that you are. That a complex world can be defined down to just a simple question of men versus women. The truth is, Donald Trump has way more women employed in the administration than probably any of them in history. The chief of staff, Susie Wiles, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but she's a woman too. There are a lot of women in the administration, but it's a question of trying to, in every way possible, discredit Donald Trump. Even so much as to use a flawed feminism to try to attack him. But don't worry. When the next time you get fired, it's a question of the patriarchy. It's not that you suck at your job. It's the patriarchy, all the way around. It always is. Now to a bit of Sheridan, Wyoming news. One of the friends of the program, his name is Luke Patzig. He got a call from Representative Hageman the other day, and let's just go ahead and play it, Ken. It's Harriet and Luke. Maybe there it goes.
We visited a while back about the exciting news related to you being accepted for the Merchant Marine, but I have another phone call that I have to make to you today. You have also been accepted to the Naval Academy.
Yeah.
No way. Oh my goodness.
Isn't that exciting?
Holy man, that's really exciting.
It is exciting.
Thank you so much for calling and telling me. I have no idea how excited I am right now.
I hope that I am not interrupting your dinner, but I couldn't wait, and I know you're going to receive the notification tomorrow, and I wanted to be the first one to tell you.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much, ma'am.
You should be so proud of what you have accomplished. I'm very proud of you. The state of Wyoming is proud of you, and I know you're going to make the right decision, and I know that you are going to have an incredible career in front of you.
Wow, thank you, ma'am. I'm over the moon right now. I really
Well, congratulations, Luke. I'm proud of you too. Well done. I don't know how often that happens, but getting accepted into 2 military academies, that's got to be a feat.
It does happen. I was going to mention some other people that have done it, but I'll just leave that alone.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I suppose if you get accepted to one, you're probably qualified for another. But congratulations, Luke Patzig. I'm very proud of you. Good job. Well done.
Sorry, Gail, something you never did.
Yeah, Luke Patzig actually gets to go to the Naval Academy, unlike Gail Simmons, who just says that she's part of it.
Well, maybe she visited there.
Yeah, well, maybe so. I even tried to give her the benefit of the doubt and saying, well, maybe she took a class at the Naval Academy. Maybe there was some sort of like, military college outreach. I don't really think that that's a thing, but I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt, but she has yet to correct that article in the Cowboy. You should probably do that. Do that, Gail. From the Blaze. Parasitic socialist Elizabeth Warren is getting crushed online over her tax hike proposal. From the Blaze. And I quote, Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts got a chilly reception on social media for her wealth tax hike proposal. Warren has been pressing to jack up taxes in order to expand the social safety net, but many responded with scorn and ridicule. Quote, she wants to steal a stake in his company to secure her power, period. Quote, Jeff Bezos has $222 billion, wrote Elizabeth Warren. If he paid my wealth tax this year, We could fund insulin in America for everyone who needs it, free school lunch for every kid in Texas, and have plenty of money left over. And Bezos would still have $215 billion to spare. You know why you can't do that, Elizabeth Warren? Because it's not your money. Because Jeff Bezos earned it.
That's $7 billion.
$7 billion.
And she just says, well, if I take that, you'll still have a lot left over. Who are you to decide what he has left over?
Because the
So
rich have to
aggravating.
pay their fair share, Ken. Warren's proposal would apply only to those who have a net worth of over $50 million, but it would allow the government to tax assets in addition to income. Economic expert and Blaze News contributor Carol Roth outlined the main problem with Warren's tax hike, except, of course, that it's theft. Quote, the U.S. government takes in around $5 trillion in tax, $5 trillion of wealth taken from American citizens every single year. $5 trillion. That's more than the GDP of every country in the world, except for the U.S. itself and China. Yet members of Congress, like Elizabeth Warren, refuse to manage a budget and efficiently spend our money. They refuse to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. During Elizabeth Warren's tenure in Congress, instead of advocating for a balanced budget, she has sat idly by while more than $20 trillion has been added to the national debt. And so there's no reason why we shouldn't make Jeff Bezos pay another $7.
I don't think she sat idly by. I think she voted for and was a part of those increases.
Well, very true.
Yeah.
Very true. She didn't do anything to stop them, of course. Let's see here. Instead of addressing her and Congress's failure to spend responsibly and tackle fraud, she advocates for the theft of property owned by successful business people like Jeff Bezos. She wants to steal a stake in his company to secure her power, period. Now, if you think that this is just a problem at the national level, it's not. There are numerous people in the state of Wyoming that I've heard them say, well, everybody needs to pay their fair share. I mean, there are people in Cheyenne that believe this very thing. One of them he retired and he's no longer in the legislature, but my personal favorite was Jerry Obermueller. He famously said that it's okay to tax people so long as they don't know it. And I mean, it's just, I don't want you to go away thinking that this isn't a problem in Wyoming.
This is Senator Pappas. Let's not call it a tax. Let's call it a fee.
It's a fee.
Yeah.
There are people on our own side that claim that fees aren't taxes, which they absolutely are. Anytime you have to pay the government for anything, that's called a tax. It's a charge over and above what the person you're doing commerce with wants for their product.
Government calls it revenue, so.
Well, yeah, and that's another one. Now, the government always says, well, it's tax revenue. No. Revenue is generated through commerce, through private enterprise. When you come up with a product or a service that's something new and people want to pay you for it, and then you provide that service, you are generating revenue for yourself. That is income for yourself. The government doesn't generate income for itself. It takes money from citizens. Taxation is theft. And I would argue that all taxation is theft, but some of it, we have to have. I like driving on smooth roads, and I do like having a police force, and I do like having a fire department.
I like to flush a toilet and have it gone.
Yes, that too. We need to have nice sewer and water pipes. But anything over and above what is absolutely necessary, it is absolutely legalized larceny, is what Calvin Coolidge called it. And yeah, I mean, it's every session I go down to Cheyenne, and I never cease to be amazed at the new inventive and creative ways they come up with to take and spend more of your money. And
thank God they're conservative Republicans.
And Wyoming Republicans. And and it is always we have to have this service. We have to do this. We can't do without our services. We have to fund this project or that project.
Even if it's a new service that we've never had before. Now that we know it's out there, we can't do without it.
Yes. We have to have shooting complexes. You know, I mean, 20. What's that dollar number
I'm
up to
getting
now?
I don't know.
20 million.
I'm not going to say I don't know.
It's going to go up from there, because the original plan on that one was we were going to turn it over to a private party. But now, wow, when the state can fund everything, why not just keep it state run? It makes perfect sense, because you can use taxpayer dollars to fund your project. And I would argue that any time that the government spends money, it's actually a hidden tax. And let me explain why. When the government gets involved in any industry, whether it's housing or shooting complexes or, YMCA's, healthcare, or the cat shelter, the dog and cat shelter here in town, anytime the government gets involved in anything, it creates artificial competition between itself and private enterprise. And it causes the private business owner to have to increase their taxes. Or not increase their taxes, but increase the price of their services. And so it ends up being a hidden tax on you. And I mean, and we don't talk about the effect of government spending. It's pretty easy to talk about taxes, the amount of money that people actually have to pay. But we don't often talk about the hidden tax that exists when government competes with private enterprise, and that it artificially jacks up prices. Ken, you mentioned them earlier, the guy, all of the housing codes that we have. I mean, it takes money for businesses to sit and go through all of the red tape to meet all of these unfunded government mandates. And, a business has to recoup those. And, if you're only a dumb business person is going to absorb those costs.
And we, of course, immediately we talk about the home builder. And this is something I was trying to get to earlier. But everybody that provides any product used has all of the same regulations and hurdles and got to have licensing and permitting and all of this stuff. And by the time you've got 7 or 8 or 10 layers in a product, you've made a substantial difference in what it costs.
Absolutely. And I use this example a lot, but I think it's illustrative. Years ago, Buffalo wanted to pass this tax, and they were going to give a whole bunch of money to the YMCA to create this fantastic gym. Well, there's a guy not 2 blocks away that owns a private gym, and he sunk his last dollar into buying equipment for his gym so that he could make a living. Why should he have to compete with government? I mean, every time government gets involved, it causes private enterprise to raise prices, which is a hidden tax on you.
I have a gym.
Do you now?
I do. It used to be called the John, but I changed its name to Jim. That way, people are more impressed when I tell them first thing I do every morning is go to the gym.
Well, you have to be able to tell the truth. I get it. It's a skill all politicians need, or all everybody that's involved in politics. It's something they could do more with. But my friends, I cannot emphasize enough that the amount of taxes that you actually pay is far and above what's on your property tax bill or what's on your receipt when you go to the grocery store. A lot of the taxes you pay are a hidden tax. And a big one that comes from the federal government is inflation. That the rise in prices is due to the amount of money that is printed at the federal level. And so, you ever notice that prices never go down? They always go up. Well, it's because government never stops printing money. They just continue to print, and, it reverberates throughout the whole system. But that increase in prices, it's absolutely due to politicians, government types. And a lot of it, too, is the bureaucracy. We continually add layers and layers and layers of bureaucracy. We have to have this board or that board. And to justify their existence, they come up with all sorts of regulations. We have to pay attention to the trails. We have to have a trail board. We can't just, maybe let people create their own trail on their own property. Now, this is an article I saw this morning I think it was on Sheridan Media. Now, our tax dollars have to go to pay the hospital to create a trail on their own property. I mean, is there no end to the government spending? Is there no end to the government involvement in our lives? And the answer to that is no. Let me give you another example. This is from the Federalist. There's a new study out, and this is one of those that no kidding should be the response to this one. And it's entitled Trans Kids Are Much More Likely to Suffer a Crisis After a Transition. I had a conversation with a listener yesterday, and it was, hey, why don't you cover some of these topics that are, a little bit uncomfortable? And my answer was, well, I try to every once in a while, but it is because that they're uncomfortable that, I try to spread them out a little bit. But this is one of these that I don't think that we can emphasize enough. Let me just give you the first couple paragraphs. Quote, among adolescents who underwent medical gender reassignment, psychiatric morbidity increased markedly during the follow-up. Brace yourself for a shock, but pediatric sexual mutilation may not cause happiness. A study published on April the 4th in the Nordic Medical Journal, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, we're just going to call it the Nordic Medical Journal, shows that adolescents who are medically transitioned into a new gender identity become far more likely to spiral down into psychological crisis. I wonder why, because their entire biology is figured one way, and you're artificially altering that. I wouldn't have any idea why they would have a problem with that. The paper, Psychiatric Morbidity Among Adolescents and Young Adults Who Contacted Specialized Gender Identity Services in Finland from 96 to 2019, talk about a title, a registered study, uses a feature of Finland's unique hybrid medical system to track outcomes following pediatric procedures. Each citizen has an 11-digit personal identification number. Talk about the mark of the beast there. Medical care for citizens is closely tracked through a system of databases. The Finnish population information system contains personal data on all residents. And so what they found is that among adolescents who underwent this procedure, psychiatric morbidity increased during a follow-up, rising from 9.8%. Listen to this, Ken. This is scary. Rising from 9.8% to 60.7% in feminizing gender reassignment, and from 21.6 to 54.6 in masculine gender reassignment. We are literally killing our kids.
You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
Yes.
What they're doing there is trying to be set free by a lie.
Yes.
And we're shocked when it doesn't work out.
And think about the arrogance in that one. For the entirety of mankind, since the garden till now, we have all known what it takes to create a baby. It takes a man and a woman. And it doesn't matter how much, how many appendages you chop off, it is not going to change who you are biologically. It doesn't matter how many drugs you take. We go to great efforts in trying to outlaw drugs that people use to change their own reality. It's I used to drink way too much. I was an alcoholic at one point, and I can tell you for a fact that behavior really is an escape mechanism. It's an addiction that people use to try to escape their circumstances, and the same holds true for every other type of drug, whether it's a narcotic or it's pot, whatever. It's all escape from reality.
Sugar.
Yeah, sugar's another good one. Oh man, when I became a diabetic, I thought like kicking drinking was no big deal. Kicking sugar, I still struggled with that. It's a huge addiction. But think about this. How many laws do we have against mind-altering substances? A crapload of them. Narcotics are illegal in all 50 states, and they carry with them pretty harsh penalties. But yet, here we are trying to alter somebody's, physical, who they are, an escape from reality. The reality it being that you're either a man or you're a woman. That you can't switch genders any more than you can become a trout. And we're seeing the results here. This study shows you that you do that, you have a 60% chance of wanting to end your life. It's just absolutely absolutely shocking. Just, I don't know how else to put it. All right, let's see here. Moving on. This one, oh man. If you have a child in school, if you are involved in the school system, this should absolutely tick you off. From the Daily Mail. Disturbing moment, middle-aged male school board member puts his arm around a girl at a public meeting and calls her hot. I'm not even kidding. Quote, a disturbing video captured a moment a Tennessee man put his arm around a female student during a school board meeting and called her hot. Washington County School Board member Keith Irvin is under review for the creepy moment and gestures he directed at the young girl on April 2nd. Irvin is seen putting his arm around the teen while other board members looked visibly tense. Go ahead and play that video, Ken. It's called School Board Member.
Dip their toes in and then can almost just like step by step get them to high school, get them out, get them into a career.
It is currently done in pre-K-8s.
God, you're hot. You know that? Dang. Where do you go to school at?
I go Crockett.
All right.
Talk about
I just want to be crystal clear. The motion tonight is just to move forward with the
Then he
talks,
puts his arm on her
move forward
again.
with the information gathered.
Okay, so that's a school board member. Now, before you say this is Wyoming and that type of stuff doesn't happen here, it was not that long ago where here in Sheridan, a coach was arrested for having illegal contact with a minor. So this sort of stuff, it does happen everywhere. It just so happens that this video is from Tennessee. Now, the student attended the meeting, the school board meeting, to present her research on the district's schools to the board. Irvin made the comment after she's finished her speech, and the girl ran out of the room in discomfort. The district superintendent, Jerry Boyd, noted that Irvin's behavior made attendees uncomfortable. Quote, in all honesty, it certainly was an uncomfortable situation. There's a lot of nervousness in the room. Disturbing video captured that moment when he put his arm around the girl. All right, so our board expects a high level of professionalism, on and on and on. But see, this is another reason why parents need to be involved in their child's education. Why you need to know who the people are that are running your school. It's school board elections, in some places. I know when I was growing up in Buffalo, sometimes the school board election would get kind of contentious. And the one here in Sheridan, last election, I didn't really see too much. I mean, we did have a debate, but I really didn't see that much focus on who exactly these people are. And I think you got to do this with all people who are running for office. And the media is partly to blame. That if they actually did their job and dug into, who the people are that are running for office, maybe you could ferret some of this stuff out. But you got to be vigilant, my friends. You got to pay attention to what's happening in your kid's school, and who the people are. I guarantee you that guy in the video, that's not the first time he's done something like that. Not at all. Nor the coach in Sheridan that got arrested. I don't know if I heard whether he went to prison or not. I'm sure he did, but I never heard the end of that one. But absolutely shocking. Here's another one. And this one, I have problems with it at a couple of levels. This is from The Blaze. Legendary coaches, and this isn't about the previous subject. It's still education, though. Legendary coaches praise Trump's new college sports executive order. Why is the president issuing an executive order about college sports? It seems to me that that's a little bit out of his purview, perhaps a little bit below his pay grade. But he did. Anyway, here's what the piece says. President Donald Trump laid out new ground rules for college-level sports and athletes in a new executive order being praised by some of the biggest names in collegiate sports. However, some of the president's proposed limitations are sure to bother some, especially top-earning college athletes. Quote, I urge Congress to pass bipartisan legislation and save college sports. Following a roundtable at the White House in March, the president signed the EO on Friday to implement the urgent national action to save college sports. First question, why is the president weighing in on this? Why is he signing an executive order on this at all?
I'm just going to say because nobody will stop him.
Well, he shouldn't be stopping them either.
I mean, nobody will stop him from executive orders.
Oh, yeah.
If I have a problem with Trump, that's his way of doing things. Not using the system. And, of course, the argument is made, well, the system is broken, so you can't blame him. And
certainly we can.
But that just tells me how far down we have gotten.
Down the rabbit hole
rabbit hole. So at UW, they're talking about they're going to get $4 million to go
towards this name, image, likeness
thing.
So
back during all the discussions in Cheyenne, we asked them how much it would take to be successful, and the numbers were, it'd take 7 million.
Only 6 or 7 million.
Yeah, in order to start being competitive and win championships. As soon as they got that 4 million, the number went up, and I would be remiss to try to quote it perfectly, but there was just another article about that, and it just shows me, how much do you really need to be $1 billion, and we can be successful as a Wyoming business. Okay, here's your $1 billion. Oh, it'll take at least 3. That's the same kind of thing.
Well, all right. So the piece continues, and here's what the executive order basically says. Trump's executive order made specific mention of an alleged fraudulent name, image, and likeness scheme where student athletes are being paid above actual fair market value to play for certain programs. The idea behind the regulation is to prevent pay for play or player eligibility, in which large schools would essentially pay student athletes large sums of money through collectives or sponsorships and entice them to their program. Otherwise, the order states fair competition cannot occur. Trump's executive order defines the fair market value compensation cap. And again, I can't even hardly get through this without shaking my head going, why in God's name is he even involved in this? And you might be right, Ken, because nobody will stop him.
Well, he certainly shouldn't be. This whole thing, I've got no problem with student athletes being paid, but paid by whom? Okay, do you have a problem with somebody who is studying engineering and takes a job on the side working in an engineering firm? Do you think they should be paid for that job?
Sure.
Okay. Same thing with an athlete.
I disagree. They are being
you're
paid.
Wrong.
Well, no, I'm not. They are being paid. It's called their college education.
You could say the same thing to the engineering students.
No. Because that's entirely different. Okay?
No,
that's a job. Yes,
not
it
an
is.
engineering student that's on a scholarship.
It is a taking a job outside of the educational system. So they're still doing everything.
You're getting to where I'm trying to go.
Okay.
You take athletes outside the university. It's supported however any other professional team has played, and you do it that way.
No, see, I disagree. So you're part of the educational system, right? You join a team or whatever. And you're going to have photos taken of that team, and the school is going to use it for, advertising or whatever. It's still within the educational institution. Now, the question is the school making money off of that picture? I would say, well, yeah, but you're being compensated through paying for that.
I don't think
education.
You heard what I said.
No, I did. I just disagree.
No, I said you take that away from the school. That's no longer part of the school. Now, they can still have that moniker or whatever that supports it, but it should be separated.
So the reason why I say that, I don't know what that was. So the reason I disagree with it is, you're, like I said, you're already being compensated through your education. Whatever activities are happening.
Engineering student is being compensated.
No. There's a difference.
Okay. What's wrong with what I just said? If an engineering student is going to school on a scholarship, he's being paid for that.
Right. Through a scholarship.
That's all I'm saying.
Right. But if you take a job outside of the school in your off hours when you're not doing school stuff, that's no different than waiting tables at a restaurant.
What if that job is playing football in a semi-professional league?
Then you're not in the school.
That's my point.
Okay, but that is not what we're arguing about here.
That's what I'm arguing about.
Well, you're not on topic, because the question of name, image, and likeness refers to the pictures being
I'm
taken.
offering a solution to this problem.
Well, I don't know that your solution works, because if you transition from being a college athlete to a professional athlete, well, that's an entirely different thing. I mean, you
So
trash your eligibility doing
that's
that.
what I'm saying is there is no longer eligibility. It actually becomes a profession.
Yeah, and I'm totally against that.
Well, you're wrong.
No, I'm not. There's value in an education, and I think from a philosophical perspective, it's also wrong that
you can still go to school.
Let me finish my point before you continue interrupting me. The problem is that you're adding another layer of monetization onto a college education. And so, how often have we argued that, well, these kids they go to college and they're just playing basketball and, they're just trying to become professional athletes. If college education means anything, then we shouldn't allow this, because then it further turns that activity into a career. And if you want to make money off of it, fine. Don't do it in a college environment. If you want to become a professional baseball player, fine, do it. But that doesn't mean that you need to be doing it in college. I'm arguing it from a philosophic perspective and from an educational
I'm just
one.
saying philosophically, sports should not be a part of the college education.
Okay, well, that's a different argument there.
That's what I have been saying all along.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I'm just against this name, image, and likeness thing all the way around. And, we live in such a litigious society that I don't know how you get away from this. But I think when you make a deal to play athletics for a university, well, that's you're getting your housing, you're getting your education paid for. And the cost of education, which I think is artificially high, but it is what it is. You go to Harvard. I don't know what the tuition is at Harvard, but it's at least $50,000, probably $100,000 a year. And so the compensation you're getting for playing, basketball or whatever for Harvard, well, that's your education. Let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll move on. Yeah, I know. The weather seems to be toying with us. 60 one day, 42 the next, and pretty soon, my friends, those 6s and 4s are going to turn into 3s and 2s. Though we all want to avoid it, that white stuff is coming, my friends, and you will be shoveling the walk in it. It's cold, it's unpleasant, and nobody likes to do it. But you could make it just a little bit more comfortable and prevent your feet from turning into a giant block of ice. In fact, you could keep them nice and warm and toasty, and your toes will never even know that they're outside. The rest of you may be frozen solid, but at least your feet won't be. To make all this happen, you just need a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. They are the finest socks that I've ever put on my feet. To get you a pair, go to their website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Are you one of those guys that listen to the president just a little bit too closely, and now you're tired of winning? Are you getting the feeling that there's been way too many good things happening in our country, and you just can't take it anymore? Well, if you are, and you think you should follow Rosie O'Donnell's example and get the heck out of Dodge, you need to call Rebecca Bextel at eXp Realty. She'll make those foreign country living ideas a reality for you. All you have to do is call 307-699-3519, and she'll make sure some freedom-loving, red-blooded American will now live in the home that you no longer want. If you want to sell your house, or if you want to buy one that's way better than the house you have right now, give Rebecca a call. Again, her phone number is 307-699-3519.
I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day, don't you? Well, I can show you how. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day. I'm only gonna get stronger.
Cowboy State Politics is only going to get stronger. The Cowboy State Politics podcast that will be published after today's program is an interview with U.S. Representative Harriet Hageman. Don't miss it. It's an interesting interview. There's some questions in there that, or at least one of them, that I know that you've been dying to hear her respond to. So she does. Now, our argument continued into the break, but I think I may have something here that perhaps we're not going to have a debate about. From Breitbart News, NASA astronaut Victor Glover shares gospel message before losing signal with Earth. And I quote, NASA astronaut and pilot for the Artemis II mission, Victor Glover, shared the gospel and teachings of Jesus Christ more moments before losing signal with Earth as he and other astronauts reached the dark side of the moon. Was it Led Zeppelin who had the song Dark Side of the Moon? Glover shared that as he and the three other astronauts, Reed Wiseman, Christina Koch, and Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen, got closer to the nearest point to the moon and the farthest point from Earth, he wanted to remind people that one of the most important mysteries on Earth is love. Glover shared how Jesus Christ said that the greatest command was to, quote, love God with all that you are, and added that the second greatest commandment is for people to love your neighbor as yourself. Matthew 22:36-40 shares that Jesus stated the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. Jesus also adds that the second greatest commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. Kind of cool that the last message you get before the dark side of the moon.
So the conspiracy theorists are going to say, well, they really don't ever have to lose communications. You've probably seen and been entertained by a number of the memes popping up on social media.
Yeah.
About different things. And now, they'll show a video and they've got something crawling up out of a crater. And wait a minute. It's interesting.
Well, and I never bought into the whole we never went to the moon conspiracy. I mean, it's I've seen the pictures, from the 1970s, or I guess 60s, from Earth to the moon to Earth.
But the flag wasn't waving.
There's no
atmosphere.
Just ridiculous. But I really appreciate that was the last thing that they talked about before losing contact. And another cool thing that happened, and I don't know that people understand the significance of this, but there was a ship-to-ship call that was made in space. So the Artemis people, they were able to call the International Space Station when they got past the dark side of the moon.
I did see that they got a picture of video of the space station passing between them and the moon, and you can see it going around there, and that was kind of cool. And I don't know how many people know this, but one of my screensavers now is a website that is a live camera feed from the International Space Station.
No.
And you can just sit there, and I've several times seen it fly over Wyoming, and you can look down and see the terrain and all that. It's just relaxing.
Oh, I am a space junkie. You're
kind of spacey.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not the one that was arguing for paying college athletes. But anyway, moving on from Breitbart. Amnesty champion Maria Salazar denies amnesty evidence. Now, this is a common argument that happens in Congress, and it is always the liberal solution. Well, not always the liberal solution. Sometimes it's the conservative solution too. falsely, by the way, that we can't actually deal with the problem. We just have to make the problem go away. Yeah, we don't deal with causes. We just treat the effects of it. Instead of, maybe sealing the border and tightening up our immigration laws and deporting people who are here illegally, let's just make them all citizens. Reagan did it. And now the Democrats, this Maria Salazar, she's trying it too. And I quote, Amnesty advocate Maria Salazar is madder than a wet hen because Americans who favor citizens say her pro-amnesty bill would amnesty millions of migrants and import many more illegal immigrants. And she put on one of her social media outlets, read the bill before you open your mouth, and all separated with periods. She angrily responded on April 7th to Representative Brandon Gill. I love that guy. You ever watched videos of him in committee? He's the guy that calmly asks questions. The one that comes to mind is when he had the head of NPR in front of him, and he was asking her about all her tweets. Now, wait a minute. Didn't you also tweet this? How do you respond to this one? But it's, if you ever get time, just look up Brandon Gill committee. You'll laugh your tail off. Anyway, Salazar said, calling the Dignity Act amnesty isn't just wrong. It's a deliberate distortion, and it exposes how little you know about the bill. Well, in the bill, Section 1 prohibits DHS from deporting any illegals who simply applies for her dignity program. So no more deportations. Section 2 opens the floodgates to asylum seekers by decreasing processing times and mandates DHS ensures contact with legal counsel. In other words, free lawyers for illegal immigrants. Section 3 more than doubles her per-country immigrant visa caps. More Indian H-1B workers and immigration. Section 4 allows the next Democrat Attorney General to terminate removal proceedings, that is, deportation. So, again, no more deportations. Section 5 mandates student loan forgiveness for immigration lawyers. So now we're paying people to be advocates for illegals. Now, these are just a few of the examples of the unconscionable nonsense in this treacherous bill, and I'm very glad that you killed your own bill with your temper tantrum, though. Saved us a headache on the floor. Go ahead and play for me, Ken. It's called Dignity Act 2. And play that one.
Yes, they broke the law, but someone gave them a job because they needed those workers. Workers who are still needed today. The Secretary of Homeland Security said it herself. Homeland Security, she said it herself clearly. Congress needs to write legislation to fix this mess. Well, here is the legislation, madam. No more need to choose between amnesty or deportation. Dignity bill is the answer. Either. And here's how it works. If you are undocumented and you have been in the country for more than 5 years, you do not have a criminal record. You're working and paying taxes.
Wait a minute.
You can come out of the shadows with no fear and apply for the dignity status.
Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yes, they broke the law.
Yes, they did.
But someone gave them a job because they needed those.
All right. So now, wait a minute. If you've been in the country for 5 years illegally, aren't you committing a crime right there?
Well, of course, but she's
wait until you play the next one.
She opened her mouth, and I was immediately didn't like her.
Incensed. I know.
Yeah. There is an attitude there that anyone who disagrees with her is an idiot. And,
yes.
And I'm the only one entitled to that attitude.
Yeah. And if you actually read her bill, it really is amnesty, said the Immigration Accountability Project. It's amnesty for millions of illegal aliens. It's amnesty for so-called dreamers. It's amnesty for illegal aliens who came to the U.S. prior to 2021. It's amnesty for illegal aliens who marry U.S. citizens. So you become a citizen there. So much for the Supreme Court. And it's amnesty for all employers that hire all the illegal aliens who get amnesty. So there's an incentive to come to the country illegally because you get a job And, you don't have to worry about being prosecuted. Now go ahead and play the video that says Dignity Act.
We give them dignity. At some point in the future, another legislator will write another law to give them path to citizenship. Right now, what we need to do is to buy peace for these people, allow them to stay, to continue working, because they are needed.
But it's not amnesty. It's not amnesty at all. We're just allowing them to stay, because they're needed, Ken. I mean, we have to have them. Don't you understand this?
2 + 2 is 4, not 5 if you want it to be 5. And this is not to be discriminatory. This is to stand up for language. Words mean things.
Yes, they do. And amnesty means amnesty. Oh, my Lord, my friends. Why? How do these people get elected? I mean, sure to goodness, she said stupid stuff like that while she was running for office. I mean, certainly somebody had to catch her on video being the complete idiot that she is. I mean, it just, and maybe it is just, like you say, Ken, maybe it's just complete apathy.
Well, it's hard to blame them sometimes because how many people have said, this is what I'm going to do, and people just quit believing anybody. And then when you do what I did, what you do, what some others do, you catch all kinds of hell because you did exactly what you said you were going to do.
Yeah, but the Sheridan Press printed that for you.
Well, I'm just saying, you got a lot of people, trying to recruit people to run for an office. Well, there's no way in hell I could do that.
Yeah, well, that's the
what
biggest
we've created.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the biggest challenges is recruiting quality people that would run. I mean, we can find all sorts of Democrats that'll run for office, but the question is, I mean, how do you find somebody that's going to actually work on the problems that we have and not just try to pass an amnesty bill and say that it's not amnesty?
Because the price for doing the right thing is horrendous.
Mm.
And I'm not whining, I'm not complaining, I'm woe is me. But until you've been there, you don't know.
Well, and that's another subject. Not that long ago, you said that you never would have imagined that the workload would be so much when you were running for office. And then you got elected and you realized, holy crap, the workload is actually pretty big. And it's not just the actual, paperwork, reading bills, writing bills, debating bills. It's the phone calls. It's the meetings that you got to go to. I mean, it's everybody wanting a piece of your time.
Well, it's a combination of all of those things, and it gets a lot worse if you actually try to make a difference. If you just want to go there and go along to get along, you can skate by pretty easily. But if you actually want to put your foot down and make some changes,
right,
there you will pay a price.
Oh yeah, and it's not just your time. It's your name being in the paper all the time, and in your case, your picture being in the paper all the time.
Well, anytime you say anything, it's taken out of context and try to make you look. Every effort that they make is to try to make you look stupid. We talked about it earlier with the president, with Trump.
Yeah.
They can't give you credit for anything.
No. No. So. I mean, if you're a conservative in any way, shape, or form, every news outlet except mine, ours will be, we try to at least shoot things straight and be fair about things, but not the other media outlets. I mean, they'll print an apology from Megan Degenfelder and just drop it and hope that nobody pays attention to what she actually did. And I'm surprised there isn't an article about how much fun she had going to the Easter egg roll. I mean, if we're going to carry somebody's water, maybe you should just go full on and do it. Now, there's another guy who has been writing for the Turkey Vulture that I quite like, Mr. Harrison. He's a lawyer that's been writing some op-eds, and this one
I met him this session.
Oh yeah,
yeah, interesting guy.
All right. Well, tell me about him. You met him?
No. There really is nothing to tell. I mean, it's just small talk. But but met him and then, started paying more attention to what he writes. And his writing is what I know of him. So.
All right, so let's. We've got 10 minutes left, so we got plenty of time to do this one. This piece is entitled "Protecting the System, Not the Student: The Failure of Judicial Activism," and I quote. In the Laramie County District Court, a dangerous legal inversion has taken place. Judge Frolicker's injunction against the Steamboat Legacy Scholarship Act, or the Wyoming's ESA program, is a masterclass in judicial overreach. By freezing $30 million intended for parental choice, the court has not protected a constitutional right. It has protected a government monopoly. The district court's reasoning rests on a fundamental logic collapse regarding Article 3, Section 36 of the Wyoming Constitution. To understand why this ruling is a departure from sound jurisprudence, you have to simply look at the text. The Constitution prohibits appropriations to any entity, quote, not under the absolute control of the state. This is what we were talking about yesterday. Yet the legislature appropriated these funds to the state superintendent of public instruction, a constitutional officer who is, by definition, under the state's absolute control. The court attempts to escape this reality by inventing a pass-through theory that appears nowhere in the document's four corners. It argues that because the money eventually pays for a private tutor or a non-governmental online program, the state has lost, quote, absolute control. This is a legal fantasy. Under the Act, the funds do not simply vanish into a parent's personal bank account. Instead, they are held in state-managed account and paid directly to the certified education service provider only after the state superintendent approves the application. The superintendent maintains a ledger, certifies the providers, and conducts audits. The parent is not a recipient of the appropriation. The parent is merely a private actor making a choice within a state-controlled program. Do you buy that argument? I mean, it makes sense, but do you buy it?
In some ways, yes. He got a response back. I don't remember how many different attorneys.
A lot.
Yeah, bailed into that, and
so here's the flaw I see in it. The Constitution says absolute control of the state, which means in all aspects. Okay, absolute means everything. Words mean things. And so if your argument rests upon, well, the parents they only play this little teeny tiny part over here. The parents are making the choice where to spend the money. Well, that necessarily means that it is not the state making that choice on where to spend the money. Yeah. It is the parent.
What my problem isn't with that. My problem is with that the arguments are so fluid. We saw it when we were dealing with the Wyoming Business Council. Where's this money going? And we said, well, ultimately it's going to here. Oh, this is, you can't have it both ways. And that's where I'm at with this whole thing. And that's one of the reasons that I do have against the ESAs is, anytime you give money, there are strings attached. We all know that.
Yeah, with the shekels come the shackles.
Yeah. And it's one more thing where government created the problem. Government is not the answer. It's not the solution to the problem.
Well, government is always looking for the solution to their last solution.
Yeah, and the public is dumb enough to immediately turn to them and say, you've got to fix this.
Yeah.
You screwed it up. You can't fix it, so get the hell out of the way.
Well, and when you're spending, $22,000 per student, more money is not the solution. I personally think that we need a complete overhaul of, how we fund education. And I think that you're correct in what you said yesterday, that we need a constitutional amendment to take that part, the school funding, out of the Constitution. Because we don't have a system of competition anymore. And maybe we never did, but
it shouldn't be government's job to raise your kids. And so, okay, we grant them the opportunity in the beginning to educate their kids. And there were some decent arguments for that, one could say. I disregard them. But it never ends there. That's how government is. Okay, now we're not just going to brainwash your children. We're going to feed them. They're going to become, your family is going to become dependent upon that handout. And it goes and it goes and it goes until you completely cede all the liberty you have left because you gave up your responsibility.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's not the government's job to educate your kid. It's your job. It's not the government's job to raise your kid. That's your job. I mean, the government's
eventually
it's
not your kid anymore.
Well, if you
and that's where we're going.
Well, a friend of mine, friend of the program, often says, if you send your kid to Caesar, you shouldn't be surprised when they all come out Romans, and that's exactly what's happening. And I like Harrison's work. I think he offers a much needed perspective, but I think he happens to be wrong on this one. That I don't think the judge got it right, but I don't know that we ought to be funding private education. All right, well, that'll pretty much do it for today's installment of the broadcast. Don't miss the podcast shortly after today's program. I'll probably have it posted by at least noon. It's an interview with U.S. Representative Harriet Hageman, and it's one you don't want to miss. So, from the base of the Bighorns, I'm David Iverson, and this is Cowboy State Politics. See you tomorrow, my friends.